All right, other one, holding by Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers, as it is known. Get one all going. Holding by Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers, as it is known. We are in second chapter. We're in second chapter. In Mishna number 16, which probably be for a while. And we're talking about the evil eye, right? The Mishnah had said that in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, there are three things that remove a person from this world. One of them is an evil eye, right? That we've been speaking about, the evil inclination, and the hatred of other people. Now, we mentioned last week, we spoke about Rabbeinu Yonah, right? We mentioned Rabbeinu Yonah, and Rabbeinu Yonah says that a person, right? What is the evil eye essentially? That a person themselves are not happy, right? They're not happy with what they have. They're jealous, right? They're jealous. Their friend has more money. Seems like their kids are better. Spouse is better. Everything seems to be better. And they're jealous. They always want, they always want to know, like, when am I going to have this? When am I going to have wealth? When am I going to have, my family being the right people, doing the right thing, and, and all that. So we said, cause damage to themselves, cause damage to their friends, and as the experts in nature would say, person who desires all that their friend has contaminates the person's thoughts, cause them constantly think about things, that they don't have, that they should have, they deserve to have. And they'll be jealous with their evil eyes. So we said that the Mishna Pirke Avos will get there, I think one day when I'm about 102, hopefully, and that is that who is considered rich, right? Sameach b'chelko, right? Someone who's happy with what they have. Now, essentially, all this really should come underneath the category of not having emunah, right? Or not having proper emunah. Person could have emunah, but it could be their emunah is out of whack, so to speak. Why would I say that? Because at the end of the day, God gives the person what they should have, not what we think we should have, right? In other words, the person can say, they're in dire straits, they need money comes in, but they need the money 2 months ago, 6 months ago, right? Now the money comes in, right? So what's the answer? That's when God wants to have you the money, right? That's called Bito Bismana. That's called the right time. It doesn't matter what you needed before. It's relevant, right? God will give to you when you deserve. So, there are people that will say, I've heard a number of people say this, like in 10 lifetimes, the way things are going for them, they'll never have money, right? It's just not, not feasible for what, either for their line of work, what they do, whatever it is. And for them, that's okay. They'll live with whatever they have. You're going to say, come on, you need more, you need this. Who says? Right? There are plenty of people. I'm not saying everyone's going to do this, right? I'm not going to say everyone's going to do this, but at the end of the day, there are people that live for many years, rickety furniture, rickety things. So, they won't update. They don't even paint their walls. Because again, you could say, well, maybe they don't have the money, they don't want to invest. They don't feel they need it. They don't feel they're missing anything. Now, not everyone can live like that. And certainly, if a person, their family cannot live like that, can't do that, right? They can't do that at their, expense. I heard a great rabbi once say, that, one thing you never want to make your kids feel is like they don't have. It's like they don't have. So he said, I got them things, They didn't feel like they needed it. Now, maybe that didn't come always at the right time or whatever, right? But there has to be always has to be guidelines. There has to be a limit. What they think they're missing that their friends have. Yeah, it could be just nothing. They just think they're missing something, but they're really not. Right, essentially. But again, a person has to be wise in these areas. Obviously, you're not going to get things that your kids don't need, or then they'll say, "Oh, this isn't good enough. I want this," or that's not good enough. I want something. I want something more. I want something better. So you say, end with over so. There's no end, right? It's absolutely no end. So, we got to be leery of that. We got to be careful of that, right? I think that's for sure, right? But at the same time, there has to be, people have to be educated properly, as well. First of all, again, with kids, it's harder, right? But, even with adults, first of all, why are you looking what other people have? Who cares what other people have? If they're rubbing it in people's faces, okay, right? That would be a problem. That'd for sure be a problem. But who cares what they have? They want to go on vacation, or go on a fancy trip, this, that. Their own choice. Right? I have to say, oh, why can't I do that? Right? What's the person missing? Right? Now, is going on vacation forbidden? No one says forbidden per se. Depends why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you need to recharge, okay. Right? We all need to recharge at some point. Right? Some level, no one's a machine, no one can go 24/7, right? So to speak. But sometimes you change the scenery. Right? You had great, rabbis who go for their health. In summer they go to different places, right? For their health. Unwind a little bit, relax a little bit, obviously at their level. But it wasn't like they left learning. It wasn't like they were doing nothing. Now, again, what about going somewhere, to see the place? I'm not saying there's any Jewish historical memories there. Maybe there are, maybe there aren't. But in general, just to go to see the place, to enjoy the place. See one of the natural wonders of the world. That's something that's needed. That's something a person should desire. Now, the question would be, okay, if a person needs to unwind, they need to change the pace, change the scenery, one thing, right? Now, if that's part of it, good. Yeah, but if it's just, I want to go because I want to see. I want to see how the other, I want to see this landmark. I want to see this place. I want to be there, whatever. There's no inherent purpose for us. And really, it should be forbidden. I just said, person, go on vacation, they need to rejuvenation, whatever. Okay, that's one thing. I'm not talking about that. Talking about going to a place to see it for the sake of seeing. What's the purpose? You see, right? What would be the obvious answer? Someone's going to say, but I can thank God for this beautiful creation. I can thank God for the beautiful mountains. Right? Person goes to the Alps, let's say. Unbelievable creation. Person sees the Grand Canyon. Unbelievable. Say, you can see it online. Right? To see pictures. Okay. Someone will say, it's not the same as being there. Good. Right? Maybe it's not. Okay. So even if it isn't, going there, you say it's different. Okay. Do I need to? Should I? One of God's wonders. One of God's unbelievable creations. Even if it's man-made, doesn't matter. It's an unbelievable creation. Praising God's creation, what's the problem? We're going to see later that if a person was learning, right, with someone else, and they stop learning, and they say, this is unbelievable, thing of God's creation. Yeah, liable for death penalty. Death penalty. We're going to speak about it. Right? We'll speak about it one day. I don't know when we'll get there, but we'll get there one day. Death penalty? I understand to tell me not necessarily a good thing, right? Or you can tell me what's the problem. Why is there even any punishment? You're praising God's creation. Beautiful. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the simple answer? Simple answer is the problem is that you are praying God's creation, praising his creation when you should be learning, right? In other words, if you're in the middle of learning, you ain't praising his creation, right? Unless it's part of learning. If you tell me it's part of learning, very good. And I hear, that's part of this conversation, right? It's part of something I'm learning, okay? So that I could hear. That I could hear. But if it had nothing to do with learning, so the Mishna says, you're liable for death penalty. Again, you would ask me personally, I think, not necessarily a good thing to do in the middle of learning, right? Because, you're distracted, even for a good thing, even for the sake of saying, wow, look at this, think of this thing of God's creation. Wow, they start praising God's creation. You want to tell me maybe it should be done in the middle of learning? Okay. Right? I could hear. You want to tell me you're liable for death penalty? That's pretty harsh. That would be pretty extreme. So what would I say? What's the reason? One possible reason is you're in the middle of learning. You're distracted now. Even if you're praising God, doesn't matter. It's a distraction. Why you're supposed to be focused. Says the Mishna over there, death penalty. Now, if we were playing God, imagine. We look down, put on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache. We look down, right? And you see two people learning. Beautiful. Learning, they're getting into it, arguing back and forth, this, that. Then they veer off a little bit. Say, did you ever see this picture or whatever? Say, yeah, it was unbelievable. Look what God made. Look at the mountains. And God looks down, you're looking down and say, what does that have to do with what you're earning? This has nothing to do with what you're earning. Very good, you're praising me, okay. There's a time to praise. There's a time to learn. There are people that will say a little prayer before they learn that, they should have Siyat Shema, they should have heavenly help, and and they're learning or whatever. Okay, that's before. That's before. Now, the person being in the middle of learning, they're having difficulty. Can they offer a prayer in the middle? Yes. They can offer up a prayer in the middle and say, God, help me, this is very hard. I need your help to understand this. Okay. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about at that point that, wow, can't believe God created these great mountains. Or, Saturn, something happened with Saturn or, one of the planets, the night before. So you mentioned that as part. My catcher, what in the world, you're praising God for that right now in the middle of learning. Not even a question, you're gonna get distracted, just speak about other things, and then next thing you know, 20 minutes went by, you wasted time, you got totally off topic. Not necessarily that. I'm not even talking about that. In the middle of a person's learning, they're praising God. That's not the time. That's not the time. Now, obviously, if someone really wasn't into this and they first start doing whatever, okay. God's not going to throw the book at them. But if someone knows, and they've been learning, very good. Why are you talking about that now? That's kind of a hard concept to understand. You say, what's the big deal? Not wasting time. You're speaking about God's praises. You're speaking his praises. You're thanking him. He made the mountains. Unbelievable thing to see. Or whatever it is. So if you want to tell me, maybe it shouldn't be done, not such a good thing to do at that time, I could hear. If you want to tell me liable for death penalty, as if to say you're liable for death penalty, I think that's a little bit extreme. That's what I would say. It's extreme. Maybe you didn't do the right thing, okay. But say death penalty? So there are times for different things. When a person's learning, they should be focused on learning. I'm not even talking about wasting time. So, politics and sports and who knows what, in the middle of learning. It's nothing to do with what you're learning. If it is and someone's making a point, oh, maybe it's similar to this, or maybe it's similar to that, okay. Right? You're making a connection. You're making a direct connection. That makes sense. You want to use, an example. Maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. Right? At the end of the day, it's not the time. It's not the time. It's already a point out, right? I think it was a reverse statement, right? They go by Niagara Falls. The rabbi, students came through, was on a plane. Don't know one of God's creations, thought about it. He's got to get up, very good, and change his mind. He said, I was going for the sake of seeing Hashem's great work, then okay. I wanted to see out of curiosity, and his Sahara got him. His evil inclination. Yeah. Why is he going to see it? Is he going to see it because one of God's creation, I'm going to praise it? Or is he seeing it because he has interest in and of itself to see it? Good point. Because people could say, come on, there's nothing wrong with it. You're praising God for his creation. Okay. But there's a time. There's a time. Now, this might seem foreign to us. Because you're going to say, what's the difference? The difference is, right? So this is a little bit different case. What about wasting time? Or taken away from learning? There's a question, Yetzirah, why are we seeing it? Right? That's a different issue. Right? But here, simple issue is you're learning. So if it has to do with learning, good. If it doesn't have to do with learning, even if you're praising God, says the Mishna over there, again, we'll speak about it one day we get there, death penalty. But that's the whole thing. A person travels. And in your travels, you want to see X or Y, right? Just for the sake of seeing it, that's a different issue. If you're going to be there anyway, and you're there to chill a little bit, you go there, whatever, you need the R&R, okay, right? Within reason. Doesn't mean, okay, you're on vacation, doesn't mean you don't learn, doesn't mean you don't keep mitzvahs, right? Doesn't mean you don't pray, doesn't mean you don't speak Lashon Hara. I mean, you don't throw everything else out just because you're on vacation, you need some R&R, right? What about, I hear cases, I hear stories, which is a mind-boggling thing. And I'm not sure why certain publications even put them in there. You have a story, somebody, goes, travels, for months on end. For months on end, I don't know, they're seeing the world. They go here, they go there, they go different places. Very good. They'll stop. Obviously they'll stop for Shabbos, wherever they may be, whatever it is. But the question always is, if there's a man involved, which usually there is, so what about davening? What about praying with a minyan? Pretty important thing. Just because you want to see the world doesn't mean you throw that overboard. I remember someone said, they want to go cross country, in the States. They want to travel cross country. Very good, right? Why'd they pan the idea? Right? Let's say do it in the summer, driving here, driving there, somewhere else, whatever. Why'd they pan the idea? So what are we going to do? You're going to need a minyan, right? I can't guarantee you'll be a minyan. They can't do it. You can't do it. Listen, if a person had to go for business, you had no choice. You're in the middle of nowhere. It's one thing. One thing, you don't have a choice. Can't send someone else. You have to be there. Okay. You got nowhere to pray, so you're stuck. You got nowhere to be for Shabbos, you're stuck. So what do? You do what you need to do. That's a different issue. That you have no choice. But if you got a choice, right, you put yourself in that situation, right? So I have two questions. One is, how can a person do it in general? right? If you have little kids, they don't have to be, in school, whatever. You got kids that be in school. I don't see how you can do that, right? You got to home educate them wherever you do. That's an issue, right? Maybe if you don't have kids, even if you don't have kids, this is what you decide to do. Okay. So the first question is, if you're obligated to pray with a minion, how can a guy do it? A woman doesn't have that obligation. She technically could do it. Okay. But the guy we're talking about, he's got to pray 3 times with a minion, best of his ability. Can say, what can I do in the middle, in the middle of this place? There's nothing around. Okay. But who told you to be there? Who told you to go there? Right? So one issue is, how could someone put themselves in that situation? That's one issue. Second thing would be, how can you print it? In a religious magazine. So you're saying, well, it's kind of interesting story. If you think about it, it is definitely an interesting story. It's off the beaten track. Not everyone's going to do that. It's very rare. Okay. I would agree. But even so, I would say that since it's off the beaten track, and the person himself is traveling to places where for sure he's not going to have anywhere to pray, especially with a minion. So how can they write about that? How can they put it in a magazine? So you tell me, okay, a magazine has a rabbinical board. All right, we're talking about Orthodox rabbis here, right? So they'll say, well, it's kind of an interesting story. We're not advocating people do this. We're not telling people to do this. But it's an interesting story, so they let it go. I can hear that. Right? That's probably, a legitimate thing. But at the same time, it's a little slippery slope here. Right? Why? Because you're putting something in where, hey, someone else gets this idea. Someone else says, wow, this person can do it. And look what they went through and, this and that. Let me do it. You got an opportunity to do it for a certain amount of time, whatever it is. Yeah, let's say a person was able to do it. So now you're advocating something other people should do. But let's say we don't endorse it. We're not telling people to do it, good. Yeah, but someone reads it, gets interested, and they say, wow, so interesting. Maybe I'll do it. Or whatever. In a certain way, what are they saying? They're saying it's okay. Right? They're saying, this is what this person did. Okay. Then you can tell me they're not really saying that. Okay. But the fact they print it and they put it out there gives it legitimacy. It gives it legitimacy. Right? So anytime I see any of these stories, it makes me wonder, like, there's 2 people that travel around the world, far out communities, looking for kosher, is this type of bird kosher or not kosher, whatever, in the middle of nowhere. Middle of Africa, middle of other places, in the middle of nowhere. But they're out there to get the story. Okay. Tell about what they saw. Tell about where they went. Jewish perspective of what's going on there. Okay. There is what to be said, ancient small Jewish community in these far out places. Okay. Got kosher food. Let's say one of them can ritually slaughter so they won't starve, right? They can have meat. This, that. Okay. Is that what we should advocate? But if they didn't go there, whatever, know this, and it's an interesting story. I get it. It makes for interesting reading. Okay. Is that advocating what we should do? And not only that, should it be printed? Should something like, you want to say, they want to do it on their own. Okay. They want to do it on their own. They want to print it for themselves. So you can ask the question, why do it? Because it's interesting. Want to show people, different species, different places where Jews are and far-flung places. Very good. They want to do it on their own. They don't have to answer for themselves. They got nowhere to pray. 100% they got nowhere to pray. In a lot of these places. I'm not saying all of them, right? In a number of these places, they won't have anywhere to pray. Again, if you tell me it's business and they have no choice. But here, let's say, they're getting paid for a magazine to do it, or even if they're not. Magazine, they have this idea, you go here, go there, or whatever, do it under their auspices. There's a place they can't pray. But you ask me the question, how can they go? Everything's permissible for journalism, sell magazines, even for their own curiosity. They'll say, hey, maybe something could be, I don't know, it could save lives. It could do other things. Maybe, if it could. It's not saving lives. You got an opportunity, pray with a minute. Some people poo-poo this. They'll say, come on, the obligation to pray. The Torah obligation to pray is what? Is just prayer in general. Prayer in general. There's an obligation to pray. Very good. Right? There's an obligation to pray. There's an obligation to pray. Okay. Everything else about prayer is rabbinical. What we say, when we say, how we say, it's all rabbinical. Very good. So you say, I only have an obligation according to the Torah to pray. You know what my prayer could be? Thank you, God, for putting me in this world. That could be your prayer on a Torah level. You thank God, whatever, you fulfill your obligation on a Torah level. Obviously, on a rabbinic level, you got a lot more to say, a lot more to do, a lot more fixed prayer, this, that. Not even going to go into, why you have fixed prayer, what's the point, saying the same thing over and over again, spoken about it a number of times, right? Not really the topic here. But so they could claim the Torah obligation is to thank God. I'm thanking God. I thank God every day. Right? So when I'm in a place I can pray with 10 men, good. I'll go according to what I need to do. If not, I can rely on this. What's the obvious problem? The obvious problem is we're guided what the rabbis tell us. They were given over the right to interpret. The Torah says you got to listen to Kohen and Levite in every generation. Book of Deuteronomy, Kohen and Levite in every generation. Those are the educators. Those are the ones who taught the Jewish people. Who are the ones who teach the Jewish people today? The rabbis. Very good. So you got an obligation to listen to the rabbis. And the Torah over there says, even if the Kohen says left is right, right is left, you still have an obligation to listen to him. If you don't listen to him, death penalty. That's the obligation. That's the obligation. Now, if that's the case, and they're telling you this is what you have to do. So now someone's going to say, they're not denying oral law. Right, which a lot of people have issue with. They're not denying oral law. What are they saying? How are they justifying it? The story's more important. Yeah? Getting this information out is more important. Who says? Who says? They asked the local Orthodox rabbi. Now, maybe some Orthodox rabbis would say, yes, a good thing. Get that information out there. Let people see it. Who cares if you didn't pray with a minion? Okay. We don't have a minion there. You understand what the power of prayer is with a minion? With 10 people? Yeah. Doesn't matter. You're more inspired, less inspired, right? As a Jew. Totally irrelevant. Sometimes, again, came Friday nights, the evening service, which was done early in all places because of the fast. How many people 100% were concentrated on the words and thinking about their stomachs? Again, I can take a survey. Yeah. So you see, okay, people more inspired, less inspired, but you know what? When you're tired, you're hungry, you're prepared for Shabbos, right? You do all your preparations for Shabbos, you need anything, you're tired, Shabbos comes in, you want to get home and eat. Kind of hard to, break the fast, on meat, but okay, people have soup and other things. You can't eat a lot afterwards. Whatever it is, whatever it is. Is that prayer the same as it would have been done during a regular Friday night? Probably not. Why do I say probably not? Because again, look at the elements. Person's tired. They might be tired anyway during the week. Doesn't matter. Right? Here they're more tired because they haven't been eating. They didn't eat or drink all day. Right? At least from sunup. Very good. Even though it's a shorter fast. Okay. So what happened? So they come to synagogue. They're more tired. Right? They're more tired. They're hungry. Right? Probably have a headache by this point. Irritated because, again, it's part of fasting. It's part of what it is. I guarantee that, no, again, I'm not going to say everybody. Guaranteeing some people do not have the same intention or, same spiritual intention they would if they weren't fasting. That's probably the case. Okay. But you still have to fast. Still have to go through it, right? If you had an obligation to fast, very good. Even though the fast is going to end earlier than normal because, first of all, it's Shabbos, right? You come into Shabbos, also. Very good. So people pray, differently at different times. All right. I can hear that. Some people, even during the best of times, sometimes more inspired, less inspired, it's a hard thing, right? It's one of the three things the Gemara says that needs strengthening, and that is prayer. Always needs strengthening. But even so, you got an opportunity to pray with 10 men, right? Obviously, it's for a guy, not for a woman. It doesn't apply, right? But for a guy, it's a lot, the judgment on that prayer is much different if he does this as an individual. If he does it as an individual, not because he's sick, not because of onus, not because of something beyond their control. Yeah, their judgment is going to be much, much stricter. Why? Because God looks at a community, 10 men is considered a community. It doesn't matter if you have 10, 15, 20, you need 10. Right? You need 10. That's called the community. Very good. So if you pray as part of a community, God looks at the community as a whole, not as a bunch of individuals. He's going to look at how the individuals pray. Okay. God's going to cut them a lot of slack. He's going to cut them a lot of slack because they're part of a community. Now, if a guy is just lazy, doesn't want to get up, doesn't want to go, whatever it is, they're lazy, not under onus, then God is going to look at them in their prayer a heck of a lot different. Heck of a lot different. So it's a whole different thing. So therefore, it's better to be part of a congregation, better to pray, obviously an Orthodox congregation, let's say it's no Orthodox congregation there, and you can't get to one, so you pray at home, that's different. You say, well, what if I go to Reform or Conservative? That's nothing, it's not worth anything. Say it's not worth anything, better pray at home, no question. Right, I just want to clarify that. But in this case, what do I have? You're putting yourself in danger. And the danger is God is going to scrutinize that prayer 10 times over. So you're saying, very good. Even if that's the case, the person will say, I am going to work that much harder on my prayers. Right? I'm going to work that much harder every time I pray. Person can say that. Person can say, even though I'm not praying with 10 men, I will work 10 times harder. Yeah, okay. Doesn't matter. Those prayers are going to get extra scrutinized. It's hard enough to pray with enough intention and we hold that we don't pray with proper intention, but God accepts our prayers anyway, because we're on such a low level. But even so, we would say that you still have to work hard at it. Still something needs to be strengthened. But who gives you the right to put yourself in a situation you're going to fail? That you're going to get judged, more severely. Listen, if you tell me you're sick, there are other factors involved, you can't get there, it's one thing, right? Let's say you have a legitimate excuse. I would agree. And that's a different issue. If it's because you're lazy, or if it's because you put yourself in a situation, that you came to this, then that's a different issue, right? There's a question once I got many years ago, what would happen, you were traveling in Shabbos? Well, first of all, I wouldn't put myself in that position, right? You leave plenty of time, even, wherever you're going, you make sure you get there plenty of time ahead of time, because you never know what can happen. I'm not even talking about in the winter, it could be in the summer, right? You have no idea. Traffic jams, other things, right? You get there within plenty of time. Now, it could be something's happening you didn't expect, okay. But in general, you plan it well ahead, so you don't have issues. But the issue would be, what would happen if you get stuck? So you got to leave your car, right? And you walk. What are you going to do? I told the person, first of all, you don't put yourself in that situation. You never put yourself in that situation. No matter how much time you think you have, you always need more time. You don't want to get stuck, bottom line. Again, if it happened, it's okay. Like I said, if it happened, you got stuck, what do? Either, you change your plans, or you're going to walk on foot. What are you going to do in many cases like this? People left, snowstorm, they couldn't, they got stuck. So these things happen. I'm talking about you try and plan, it doesn't happen. Right? It's a different issue. It's brought down that you got to give yourself a lot of time before. I'm saying you're gonna, an hour travel. So you're gonna leave at 9:00 in the morning. Shabbos comes in at 6. At night. I wouldn't say that. I never wouldn't say that. You don't have to leave that early. Give yourself 3-4 hours, easy. Doesn't matter if you're gonna get the host early. Better get there than not get there. They get stuck. Now, certain things are, out of your control. I had once, I was going up north, and I didn't realize I had a flat tire. It's Friday. I got it fixed, but I got delayed. Got delayed half an hour. Well, I wanted to leave much earlier. Got delayed about half an hour, 45 minutes. And then, as I was getting where I got to, whatever, it was traffic. There was traffic. So, I was close enough. It's close enough that, that it shouldn't have been a problem. I got there in the nick of time. I got there like 10 minutes before candlelight, which is like, it's like 15 minutes before sundown. Right? It's okay. So if I would have got there early, a little bit later, whatever, okay. Right? But you want to get there, my goal is to be there much earlier. An hour, at least an hour before. At least 2 hours before. Another time I went up north. I was there much earlier time. Right? But it wasn't something planned. Right? If I had my way, I would have got there. Shabbos came in at, let's say 4:30, 5:00. I would have been there by 2:30. Easy. 2:30, 2:45 maximum. So you say, okay, I like to get places early. I do, that's true. But come Friday, these are things you don't mess with. You don't mess. These are things you don't mess with because you don't want to get stuck. But if you do get stuck, you gotta know what to do. Because come sundown is sundown. That's it. Like, what are you gonna do? Can't, that's great Shabbos. So you don't, obviously you don't put yourself in that situation. Right? Or, let's say somebody flying back from the States come to Israel, or vice versa. Right? You don't fly on a Thursday. Because you're flying on Thursday, what time you get here? Let's say even in the summer. Let's say you get here late in the morning. Let's say. Let's say you get here, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. When does Shabbos come in? 6, 6:30, later. Yeah, let's say it comes in 6:30, let's say. Because the later Shabbos comes in is like after 7, a little after 7. I think 10 past 7, 11 past 7, maximum. Shabbos comes in here. Now, if you're coming in, it's not like you got plenty of time. Shabbos comes in at 6 o'clock, 6:30. Okay. You got plenty of time. So really, let's say you got 7 hours. What could happen in 7 hours? What if you get delayed? What if the flight was delayed 2, 3 hours? Can happen. I'm not even talking about where, it has to circle or you get stuck somewhere, whatever, someone has to leave the plane, emergency landing. I'm not even talking about that. The plane got delayed. Let's say it was a major rainstorm. I don't know. It's a lightning storm. It couldn't take off. 2, 3 hour delay. Easy. If that. So you're taking a chance. 100% you're taking a chance. Right? You want to fly, on Wednesday, get in Thursday, very good. You're not gonna get delayed that much. Right? That you're safe. Then you get the whole next day. Now, could something happen like that? Sure, but okay. You're taking enough precaution with the whole day ahead. You don't expect anything to happen. Or let's say that flight got delayed. Where you were, let's say in the States or wherever you are, right? That got delayed, you can only leave the next day. Then okay, then you're taking a chance. Then for sure you're taking a chance. Right? It's definitely not worth it to do. You got to prepare ahead of time. Someone asked me the question, what would you do in this situation? So I said I wouldn't get myself in the situation. But if I was in the situation, you're driving, then you get stuck. Then like the major accident or the road shut down or who knows what. And then you get stuck. So what do you do? Then you got to leave your car. Go to the side of the road and you walk. That's what you got to do. That's essentially what you got to do. Right? So, you're stuck. 100% you're stuck. But obviously you don't put yourself in that situation. Right? So, you got to plan ahead. So going somewhere, unless you have no other choice, right? Certainly for a guy, you got to plan. Where am I going to pray? Where am I going to go? That's the most important thing. How am I going to get kosher food there? Got to prepare ahead of time. You got to know. You also have to know, let's say you go to a place. So let's say there is, an Orthodox synagogue a mile away, 2 miles away, very good. So let's say at night they don't have a minyan. So that, and the next closest minyan is 45 minutes away. So really you should probably be exempt. 100% should be exempt praying at night. Right? Who says I have to go 45 minutes out of my way? Right? Right? But if you have a place to go, if you have a place to go and let's say they had a minyan at night, but it's like, 5 o'clock. Right? It's like smack still, not in the middle of the day, but whatever. You want to go places, do things, you got to make sure you're back in time. I had this last time I was in the States. Yeah, they had a minyan every night. So, wherever I was, I had to be back or find another place to go. Right? But the nearest place after that is like half an hour away, 40 minutes away. So you'd be exempt. But if you have a place right there, you're not exempt. Yeah, you're tired, whatever. Right? What about being lazy? It's a golden opportunity to pray. Whether we take advantage of it, not take advantage of it, for a guy, it's crucial. Otherwise, that prayer is going to get scrutinized like no tomorrow. Even if, the congregation is not the greatest congregation, since, sliced cheese, okay. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The judgment on that is much, much less. Much, much less than if you would be by yourself. So if you got a good excuse why you're under onus or whatever, good. Then you can pray by yourself. If not, then, First of all, you don't get the benefit of praying with, 10 men. You don't get that benefit. And second of all, your prayer is going to get much more scrutinized. Right? Since we don't have proper intention anyway, someone will say, nah, I worked very hard. This and you're not going to. It doesn't matter. No one's on that level. Very few people on that level. Shouldn't say no one. Very few people on that level. Listen, if you can't, you can't. Right? But you got to make an opportunity to try. You don't put yourself in an opportunity where you're not going to get there. That is just forbidden. So the two questions were, I see some questions here. Deal with it. Right? The two questions are, first of all, how could someone put themselves in a situation for so long? It was like more than a year, I think. They were there 6 months, a year, something like that, without being around the Jewish community. That's a problem. That is a problem, right? And the second issue was, a magazine's going to print this. A Jewish magazine's going to print it. Okay, it's an interesting story. It gives off bad vibes, though. People say, oh, this person did it. Wow, sounds so interesting. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe. Right? Or for a certain amount of time, or who knows what. Person's got to be attached to Torah wherever they are, wherever they go, whenever they travel. This is part of the plan. Right? So, someone said it's a good way I got out of it. Going cross country. What are you going to do? You need a minute every day, right? What are you going to do? You can't put yourself in that situation. You just can't. Even other places I was also, ruffle people's feathers. It was half an hour away. That was the only nearest minion I could go to. So that's what I did. So I left. I'd leave 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever it was. I go and I come back later. It's inconvenient. 100% it's inconvenient for people, but it could be. Could be according to the letter of the law. I'm exempt. I don't have to go that far. But if you could, why not? You could ask the question, maybe family harmony takes a precedent, maybe. Could be. It could be. It also depends how important it is to the person. There are people who lax in prayer. They just, they're in a place, it's community, very good. Whatever the times are, they'll go. It's convenient. Okay, what if it's not convenient? What if it's not convenient? Again, I'm not taking a survey. There are people who are less stringent. But prayer is such a golden opportunity. Such a golden opportunity. How can you not be? Right? Change your status overnight. Overnight. Things can change. Yeah, somebody asks, just deal with this question. Notice I met more Breslov followers, right? Followers of Nachman and Breslov. Okay. What's the difference between them and Orthodox Ashkenazi? Are they kosher? Depends who they are. Some of them are wackos. I'm not going to say all of them are. Certainly not. But, there are plenty that, find upstanding people. They're, I would say, they're closer to being Sephardic than Ashkenazic, because they pray Nusach Sfarad, right? So they pray, let's say, similar to Chabad, right? Prayer book's probably similar to Chabad, in many ways, and that type, not Sephardic, which we call Edut Mizrach, right? It's probably closer to Hasidic prayer than to Sephardic, but whatever, somewhere in between. Let's say somewhere in between. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily Ashkenazi. They're probably more closer to Sephardic. And the question is, are they kosher? Now it depends who they are. There are some that are waggos. You have some, they have these Breslov, what do you call it, vans. And what they do is to go around, they'll stop the van somewhere. They'll blast music. They call the Nana Nachmans. They blast the music like they dance on top of the van. Okay, these people are waggos. Right? They're waggos. Right? But I'm not talking about that. there are well-meaning people, that are part of Breslov. I'm not, there are people drawn to it. Okay, right? So if they're doing the right thing, going in the right path, I don't have an issue with it. Not everyone's going to go on the same path. Not everyone's going on, is a cookie cutter. No one's going to fit, one group. Are they not following the laws that are similar to Reform? I don't think so. Again, it's gonna depend. It's gonna depend on who. A lot of times, they like to pray in the woods and other things. Okay, but there are plenty of that will pray 3 times a day in a normal place, because you got an obligation to pray 3 times a day. You can't just pray in the woods. I mentioned this before. Call these bodhidus, right? Being alone with God. It's great. You can do it as many times as you want. Not a problem. But you still got an obligation 3 times to pray. Right? You got to pray with dominion. If a person's really on that level, they can be there for hours and be so close to God or whatever, okay. I know there's a certain Rebbe that, like, the times he prays are, like, very late. Very late in the morning. And all kinds of different things. But he's on a different level. He's on a different plane. For many people say this person's extremely, extremely righteous. What does he do with the proper time you're supposed to pray? People do their own thing. I'm not going to say they do their own thing. Right? I don't want to get misquoted here. They're on different levels, on a different plane.
Yeah.
I know someone else that, this person prays for hours. For hours. Again, but he's on a different plane than most people. There are times, after he prays, in the middle of prayer, I don't know, like he writes things down. Like, maybe certain things were revealed to him. I don't know, whatever it is. Right? People like that, I'm not, we're not talking about here. They're on a different plane. What they do, their service to God, probably totally different than most people. Okay. But we're talking about extremely righteous people. That's a different issue. That's a different issue. Now, when I say Breslov's like Reform, no. No, they are considered Orthodox. And what they do. Now, would I agree with everything they do? No. Wouldn't agree with everything they do. But, there are plenty that doing, proper service to God, learning what they need to learn, etc. I don't have an issue with that. They want to sing and dance a little bit more. They want to be, do he's supposed to do. They want to be alone with God, different times during the day. Okay. I don't have, I don't have an issue with that. But again, you cannot go against, the proper times to pray. You can't go against the norm. That's what I would say. I'm more straight-laced in that sense. But again, I'm not opposed, to people wanting to, go in the woods and pray and meditate and do other things. I'm not opposed to that. But you got to stay according to what we're supposed to do. Right? That does not take the place, I've mentioned this many times, that does not take the place of proper prayer. It doesn't. Right? Guy's got to pray 3 times a day, whether he likes it or not. Right? He's got to pray 3 times a day. Does that mean he can't meditate? No. Does that mean he can't go in the woods and pray? Other times? No. I mean that. All right? We're not boxing everyone into a corner. But you got to do at least what you need to do. Whether you're into prayer more or not into prayer more, you do what the rabbis tell you to do. That's it. Right? Nothing in between. Nothing in between over here. One does not negate the other. Person can say, well, I reach certain spiritual plateaus when I'm, when I'm in the woods and I'm by the ocean and this and that. Very good. That's tremendous. But that doesn't take away from the fact you still got an obligation to pray with a minion. It doesn't negate that. Sorry, it doesn't supersede it, let's say better. It doesn't supersede it. Can't make up your own thing while you're going along. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One thing they do have in common, with Chabad is that the Rebbe's dead. They don't have another Rebbe, right? No one ever took over after the Lubavitcher Rebbe died. Bless the memory, no one ever took over after Rav Nachman died. They have different rabbis within Breslov and within Chabad. That's true, but no one's like the ultimate Rebbe, right? So it is interesting. Okay, they don't have one directing them. When it comes to Chabad, so yeah, a lot of people go through what the Rebbe said in the sikhs, they call them, right? That he gave over, very complex, a lot of Hasidus, a lot of Kabbalah, different things. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is they don't have anyone alive to go to. They don't have a proper Rebbe, so to speak, today. Okay. Every Hasidus outside of these two have a living rabbi, living Rebbe. Yeah, these two don't. But they do have rabbis within their, within their constituents they have. But they don't have an ultimate leader. That ultimate leader doesn't exist anymore. So, I would say, it is kind of strange being part of a group that doesn't have a leader. That's why, everyone needs their rabbinic authority that is going to give them guidance, right? Person, doesn't live on an island, can't just do things on your own, right? So to speak. So a person has to, a person has to have proper rabbinic guidance, right? That's for sure. But it is kind of interesting, these two groups. And there have been splinters among them because of exactly this. That they don't have one leader. They don't have a leader everyone agrees on. Right? It doesn't mean they don't have leadership. I'm not saying they don't have leadership. Right? That's a different issue. But they don't have someone overseeing it. Someone, ultimately in charge. Because there was no one left to take the realm. Right? There's no one to give it over to. So therefore, since there was no one to give it over to, this is what happened. But again, there are well-meaning people in both groups. Definitely well-meaning people. Not talking about the wackos. Yeah, well-meaning people. So there are people, especially non-Jews who want to convert, may be attracted to this. Because, it's a lot more, I would say, what's the word? It's a lot more, maybe entertaining, maybe more meaningful, because not as cut and it's not as dry as being a normal ultra-Orthodox Jew, I would say, which is all about, learning and, and you got to pray and you got to keep all the mitzvahs and, you don't sing and dance as much. But I would say, that's a little more dry. You got to be a little bit, I would think, a little bit more innovative in different things, keep people's attention or whatever. But I can understand why people, get into Chabad or get into Hasidus or Breslov or whatever, because, seemingly it's a lot more interesting, right? I mean, they learn different things. I mean, they have to be great. They have to be obviously bound by halakha, by Jewish law, and the source of Jewish law, which is the Talmud. So, this is what you have to learn also. They spend a lot of time learning, learning the books of Rav Nachman, and Hasidus and other things. But the base is Gemara. That's the base. Right? So now, can I understand why more people are attracted to this? Yeah. Being Litvish, being, I would say, like a Lithuanian Jew is more dry. True. Right? That is true. That's why a lot of people, stay in Chabad or go to Breslov. Or go to other Hasidus. for a number of different reasons. One of the main reasons is because you go to a regular Orthodox shul. It can be what we call humdrum. It's not not so inspiring. People don't sing and dance as much, even on Shabbos. So it's kind of dry. Yeah. So if a person fits that mold, very good. If they enjoy it, very good. If a person fits that system, some people don't. They go into Hasidus, and there are plenty of yeshivas today. They're learning more Hasidic Sfarim when it comes to everyday life and living inspired because they need it. It's something that's needed because they don't get that from the regular quote unquote normal books that they would learn, right? In Jewish philosophy, they wouldn't get it in general. It's a different generation. So the books that people would learn before, they're not going to have the same touch, not going to have the same feeling for most people. So they'll learn things that maybe give a lot more depth. Yeah, maybe it's a lot more interesting of the way it's given over and different things. That's it. Now, someone imagines, they seem very depressed. Maybe they're not having a living rabbi. I don't, I know plenty of breast livers. I shouldn't know, it's so many, but whatever. The ones I do know, certainly not depressed. Yeah, pretty lively. They got my language. They got spunk. Yeah, they're alive. They're very much alive, regardless. They don't have a live rabbi or not, right? A live rebbe, so to speak. I mean, they don't have a rabbi. They go to for questions, advice, whatever. But I see, talking about things. They're animated. They're living. They're trying to live inspired, best way they can. Yeah, that doesn't mean it doesn't show they're depressed, right? By any stretch. Are some maybe lost and have no direction? Yeah, but that's with anybody, right? But I would say the reason is even if they don't have a live Rebbe, okay. But as long as they have someone they go to advice, someone to guide them, so they shouldn't be so lost, right? They shouldn't be so lost. And that makes sense because they have someone to guide them. If they have no one to guide them, and it's just sort of like chaos one way or another, yeah, then I could hear. That for sure, that I could hear. But there are people that, if it's too dry, in general, it's not inspiring. Which again, there are other things though, to offset that. Here in Israel, they're learning slowly. That's good to be part of a congregation that that does things. They have a rabbi there that does things. Yeah, gives classes. They have maybe things for Rosh Chodesh for a new month. Maybe they have a kiddush. Maybe they'll have a communal third meal or something. Whatever you do, you do things to draw people in as a community, right? Israel, Israelis starting to learn that, it's going to be part of, synagogue that, is more communal. So, something I wanted to do, before, and that was my whole goal, was to build what I wanted to do, and then, have some sort of an outreach center, and then, work with the community. That was my goal, and then whatever, it never happened. So, still working on that goal. But, there are people doing it. There are definitely people doing it. In America, it's well needed, right? In America, the synagogue is the community. And it doesn't matter if it's a big community, small community. Everything revolves around the synagogue. Right here, like where I live, you can have a synagogue in every block. You have plenty. You have plenty on just on one block. So that's different. That's different. So yeah, some are attached, to specific Hasidus, other things not. Whatever. Well, not everyone fits in every group. But, it's neat, certainly in the States and other places, definitely needed. A community place, everything revolves around the synagogue. right? Here, synagogue can be used, as a place to pray, place to learn. But it's not necessarily the central focus. Okay, a person will say, I pray here because it's close to my house. Someone will say, I pray here, I don't know, I like this better about this place and not that place, whatever. You got, an overwhelming number of places to go. Okay. Right? A person's got to feel where they fit in. Sometimes in states, you got a small community, you'll have one place. But that main place is the source of everything going on in that community. Right? Where it is. That's needed. That's crucial. No question. That's where, that's where everything, that's what everything, revolves around. But not everybody in general is going to want to be part of something that doesn't speak to them. Or they will because they feel, it's better than, other things. But, there are people that like different things. Some people enjoy something very dry. Okay. Maybe a lot of people enjoy that. Other people don't. Other people want to be, more inspired. Hasidus, whatever, whatever they get involved in. Whatever they get involved in. Because they want to sing and dance a little bit more. They want to, you don't want to get burnt out. You don't want to get burnt out. And, if you don't have something that's inspiring you or should inspire you, then why should I go here? I don't enjoy it. Other places I don't enjoy, blah, blah, blah. A lot of things. So finding the right place, the right fit's not so easy. 100% is not so easy. The hardest thing, I think, for most people, if they want to convert, is that they will inevitably the hardest thing is going to be to find that community, right? And a community is not the easiest thing to find. You go to a small community, it's too small. You go to a big community, you get lost, right? So, a person has to do research where they fit in, right? Where they think they're going to fit in. And then, go check it out, go there, meet people, speak to people, and then see if it's a fit or not, right? But again, nothing is foolproof. They say person's got, 3 synagogues and he lives on a desert island. They're like, what do you mean? How can you have 3 synagogues on, he's the only one there. He's the only one there. So what do you mean? He says, these other 2 synagogues I would never pray in, right? But you have that. You don't like this about the synagogue, you don't like that, you don't like the other thing, right? Finding a person's place, not so easy. Not so easy, right? It's just not so easy. So no one, as we said, no one is a cookie cutter by any stretch. And therefore, a person has to feel like, where they want to be part of things. Right? And that's not an easy thing to do. 100%. It's not an easy thing to do based on what's around them. Right? And, and then, maybe something could happen. They have a fault with somebody. They want to go there now. Where else are they going to go? What are they going to do? Again, nothing's perfect in this world. We messed a lot of things up, right? Pretty much messed everything up. So, going to a place again, you got to take it for the good and the bad. That's that's really the bottom line. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of good things. But there's going to be bad things also. At least the way, they see it and they sense it. Chabad does a lot of great work, a lot of respect, for what Chabad does. But they're catering to people that don't know anything about Judaism. So a lot of their congregants, they drive on Shabbos, right? They don't keep so many mitzvahs. They're trying to draw them close. Very good. Is that where someone wants to be long term? That depends. That's they're going to make that choice. It's a good place at the beginning. Yeah, it's a good start. Definitely a good start. But again, there are limitations. There are going to be, limitations. Who am I going to speak to? Who am I going to be part of? These are questions. Because the person will say, well, I'm trying to do this and trying to do that, trying to be, more religious, do what I'm supposed to do. And these people are born Jewish, they're not doing very much. Yeah, that's a drawback. 100%. I mean, they're there because essentially they want to grow. That's why they're there. So that's good. Growth, can be very slow also. But that is a complaint I've definitely gotten a number of times. Is that they seem more religious than most people. Yeah. That's true. That may be very true. So that can be discouraging, right? But that's the only thing around. Okay. But again, a lot of these things, if possible, give someone the impetus to get out of Dodge. Right? Even, if they're within striking distance of this community or that community, whatever, whatever it may be, it may not be for them. So that's something the person has to keep in mind. But that is 100% the objective of Chabad. That's their objective. They are working with Jews that don't know anything about Judaism. So that's the majority of their congregation is going to be made up of these type of people. Now that means they, the people there may not be the best people for you, long term, right? That may be the case. We have to see though. I would think at some point, unless they're able, to deal with that, I think at some point a person probably want to be part of a more mainstream community instead of being. I'm not going to say it's a French community. I'm not going to go that far. They have what their purpose is, and their purpose is working with Jews. Sorry, with Jews who don't know that much about Judaism. That's the purpose. That's what they're doing, trying to draw them close. Very good. But that is going to make up the majority of the congregation. Now, some people will stay with them. Definitely some people will stay with them, long term, okay. That's their choice. But a person has to remember that this, the people around them are the ones they're going to attract. So, short term, you understand that whatever, you're going to go to a bigger community, whatever, good. If you're going to be long term, okay, but a person has to understand what that means. And if they're okay with it, then shouldn't be a problem. Right? And some people say Chabad. Right? I know somebody that told them that the only thing around them was Chabad. And I said, rabbinical court may tell them that they have to move to a stronger community. But they didn't have any kids to educate or anything like that. So they ended up moving to a stronger, definitely to a stronger community. They didn't have to, though. They weren't obligated. But they felt, they felt it was good for them. So they ended up going to a different Chabad. But it's part of a bigger community. And that's where they felt they fit in, and that's what they enjoy. And they're still, actually they moved somewhere else, but they're also, part of another Chabad community. But that's where they wanted to stay. Okay. They understand that though. They understand that. Finding the right, that's something you got to pray for also. Finding the right community, yeah, it's not so simple. It's not so simple. And I would say the smaller the community, the more politics there are, right? And I certainly saw that, when I was in Chile. I don't think there's any question that, you can have, a small community, but the politics are horrific, right? You have that. You can't have that. I'm not saying it's a good thing by any stretch, but it happens, right? It definitely, it definitely happens. So there are good things about it, there are bad things about it. But the question for a person is that good for them or not good for them? That's the short term, long term. That's what they have to do. But listen, there will be people there that are going to rub you the wrong way. It's just, it's just nature. Not going to get along with everybody. Not everyone's going to be your best friend, right? Even, whether it's a bigger community or a smaller community, it doesn't matter, right? It's not going to matter. But you got to try and find a place where you can fit in. That's, that is, that is not something I would say is so simple. But, this is what a person has to do. That's their, that's their obligation. Now, how they're going to fit in and how it's going to work and all that's okay. Okay. You got to give it time also. It's not, it's not an overnight thing, but this is something where a person has to do research. They have to speak to people or try and speak to people, see, go there and see it if possible. And we'll see, am I going to fit in such a place or not? Right? You got to do, your own due diligence, so to speak. Sometimes not so easy to do, but that's the only way. That is the only way you're going to be able to do it. Right? You see. Now, could things be different once you get there? Sure. Yeah, someone can say something, someone can do something, like, dynamics can change overnight, no question. But, but again, what's the obligation here? The obligation is you got to get to a community. You got to get to within walking distance of an Orthodox synagogue. That's what you got to do in order to convert. All right? So, there can be issues. 100%. There could be issues there. So, a person has to see. Yeah. And also you try the best of your ability not to move around. Right? You try and stay, in one place. It's not always so simple either. But in general, it's not foolproof. Right? That's the point. It's totally not foolproof. But again, once the person's there long enough, they integrate, they understand. Right? They understand. A person shouldn't go with unrealistic expectations and think that, I moved to the community, all my prayers have been answered. Well, there'll be other difficulties now. Getting invited to people for Shabbos. Who am I going to hang out with? Who am I going to speak to? Right? Who am I going to be friends with? Yeah, these, relationships take time to develop, as well. But as we said, you have to be in it for the long haul, right? That there's no question. And I would say, okay, one place doesn't work out over time, so you try and find another place. But moving around is never good. I've done it enough times. It's it takes its toll eventually. If you're part of a bigger community, okay, right? If you're only part of a small community, you go from one small community to another. Again, you run into the same problems. You're going to run into the same problems. Now, being part of a bigger community also has its drawbacks, right? And the fact that it's huge, right? So who am I going to meet? Like, so the community just, just so big. Okay, right? So that's a different issue, right? That's that's a different issue. But when you're part of a small community, sometimes you have no choice. So being part of a small community, there's a smaller pool of people to deal with, and because of that, what happens? We know what happens. But there's another issue, right? The other issue is that if you're part of a small community, and you're the one trying to keep Torah mitzvah the best of your ability, you're learning, and you're changing, you're integrating, very good, but other people aren't. So, like, you gotta say, I'm part of this community, okay. But, these people don't even keep Shabbos. These people don't, some of them don't keep kosher. Maybe they don't do both. Whatever it is. Right? And you're trying to be the best, Jew you can be. So that's frustrating. That's frustrating. If you tell me, it's a place where people coming in and out, the place is growing, this and that, okay. Right? So then, there'll be more people coming. It's not gonna be stagnant. Some places, someone told me when I was in the States, they didn't really tell me, but they were a certain place in in Florida, been there for 20 years. Right? Chabad rabbi been there for 20 years. And Shabbos night, after Shabbos, meaning, right, they never minyan. I'm like, but you've been there 20 years. Shabbos morning, they had a minyan. Good. So what do? They have a kiddush. Right after the kiddush, they daven mincha. Right? They daven the afternoon service because they got people there. So very good. Right? So then you don't have a problem because you already have people there. Fine. Yeah. But at nighttime, you don't have a minyan. But you've been there 20 years. I'm not making any claims about the Chabad rabbi, one way or the other. Right? But, and during the week, they don't have to have services, except in the morning. Yeah. They have difficulty getting people to come. So, yeah, people move in, people move out, other things, whatever it is, but you've been there so long, I would think you should be able to get enough people to come at night, right? But they don't, right? Again, I'm not saying it's the rabbi's fault. I'm not putting the blame there. It's the people you're dealing with. The people you're dealing with, are not so committed. If they be committed, they be there every week. They might be, but they don't come at night. Job doesn't allow it, whatever. They can't get off, whatever it is. But they have difficulty. Wherever they are. Some have it easier, some not. So, it depends when people are around. Right, as well. That's part of it. That's part of it. Another place where, during one time of the year, they don't have a problem getting a minyan in the afternoon at night. There are more people around. Very good. During other times, there's no one around. And I think this person's been there almost 30 years. 25 years. Something like that. But that's the nature. A person can be part of a place. They get a minyan only on Shabbos. It doesn't matter how long they've been there for. They can't get a minyan during the week. Right? The rabbinical court may say that's a problem. That's the only place around. If it's a guy and he has to daven 3 times a day. Right? And he has to pray 3 times a day. I get it. But this is what's on the ground. This is what's going on. But Chabad now, the question will be, just on that topic, Bob Rebbe sent these people all over the place, all over the world. Got people in Thailand, Tibet, everywhere. Found people in Italy, saved my life when I was starving. Right? There's a Chabad house there. So, they're all over. They're there to bring Jews who don't know anything about Judaism. Very good. At the same time, but, they don't have services there. Or they have powerful services there and how they educate their kids. So they have a huge network. When the kids get, older, they send them out. It's not so healthy. Having kids away from home, right? Tender ages. Right? But that's what they do. They're given a promise that they go out there to these far-flung places. They don't have a problem, educating their kids. The kids won't go off, whatever. Okay. Right? So now you would ask me the bottom line. Is that normal practice? No. It's not normal practice. You got, outreach organizations, they'll send people, at college campuses. They have around the country, right? In the States, or they'll go other places, but they'll go where there's a structure. They'll go where there's a bigger community, even if it's not exactly where they are. They need to pray, they have a place to pray, right? They have other amenities. Okay, what does Chabad do? They start their own. Okay. Right? These far-flung places that there's nobody there. They start their own. To bring kosher meat. Other things, okay. Right? But they have a huge network. Very good. Is that the ideal? I don't think it's the ideal. According to Chabad, that's what they do. That's what they do. What about people's potential also? It's another issue. Their big thing is sending people out. Okay. What if they have the potential to be great people instead of doing that? So it could be. You have people that, they'll sit and learn many, many years, and then they'll go out and they'll teach and, and give answers to questions and different things. Okay. So how many people, they produce doing that more than they send out, so I can't say. Probably much less. Probably much, much less. But in some ways, just something that grows also. Because who says after, a couple of years, couple of years, they sit and learn after they're married, then they go out. So who knows? Maybe they have greater potential. Maybe they have much greater potential instead of doing that. But some people, won't have support, whatever. So that's what they're gonna have to do. Okay, it depends. Right? It depends. But it's another knock. It's another knock on them because even though the Rebbe promised them that, you go out and do this for the sake of the Jewish people, you won't get burned. Right? You won't suffer in that way. Okay. Right? So, let's say all your kids stay on the same path and this and that, but you don't grow as you should, individually. So that could be a claim against them. Against some of them, if they have greater potential. Right? Because again, you're busy with the community, you have less time to learn. Definitely have less time to learn, which is true. My Rebbe, ingrained it in my head. And other people ingrained it in my head. Good. You want to go out and you want to do this, you want to do that. Fine. Sit and learn. Just sit and learn. Just go through as much as you can before you have to do that. They didn't tell me, my Rebbe didn't tell me it's going to be so hard to find a job afterwards. Because I had certain credentials, but okay. But 100% he was right. But not everyone can do that. Not everyone has unlimited funds. They can sit and learn for 10 years. Yeah. No, a lot of people don't have that. Very good. But at the same time, some people will get shortchanged because of it. Doesn't mean they won't be successful what they do. They could be. Very well could be. Even if I was conceited, and I would say, yeah, if I only spent 2 years learning, got a certain level of education, and I went out there, could I have been successful? I think I could have been successful. God gave me the ability to speak. Yeah. Not my own ability. He gave me the ability. Okay. But isn't it different? Now I have other types of knowledge. Gone through a lot more things, 100%. Maybe on that, 100% on mark. 100%. Yeah. It's a major difference. Other people would say, if you know something, you should go be teaching others. Okay. Right? There is what to be said for that. Whatever you know, teach others. That doesn't come at the expense of your own learning. That's a mistake. That you do in your own time. That does not come at the expense of your own learning. Your own learning comes first. No question. Doesn't mean you hoard it to yourself. That's not what it means. You have to give to others. You have knowledge. You have an obligation to give others. Right? You have knowledge to give it out there. Okay. However that is, but that does not come at the expense of your own learning. If it's a choice, you're learning, you have certain time to learn, or to give over to others, your time comes first. Comes first. If you can do both at the same time, good. Right? Now, other people would say you got an obligation to go teach others first. You get their mitzvahs. You try and draw them close. That's the greatest return on that. Very good. Doesn't come at the expense of your own learning. It's a mistake. Definite mistake. You go out when you're ready to go out. You teach when you're ready to teach. Doesn't mean you can't teach even if you don't know very much. Doesn't mean that. Right? But it doesn't come at the expense of it. In other words, if a person had the opportunity, now actually this would be a good question. Yeah? If you had the opportunity, let's say, to give over 3 times a week. 3 times a week, people know nothing about Judaism. You're just teaching them the alphabet. Or maybe a little bit more. You're teaching them maybe a little bit more. Okay. Now, what if you had that opportunity, during that time to learn? Does that supersede that? Well, that's an interesting question. Some would say, yeah, so you learn twice a week. You gain more knowledge twice a week, and you teach 3 times a week. Even if teaching the alphabet, whatever it is, doesn't matter. They would say that comes first. That would come first, but that's that's an interesting question. That was not the answer I was given. The answer I was given was you want to get it out of your system, you want to teach this and that, do it at night. Do it at night. A couple nights a week, you want to do it? Good. Get it out of your system. Right? But the days, you don't leave your days. Morning, afternoon, those are sacred. You don't leave. Right? You get the knowledge that you need to do the other things extracurricular. Extracurricular. That comes first. Learning comes first. So in this case, right, if I pose this question to my Rabbi, 100% is what he would say. 3 times a week, you know, 5 times a week you learn. You're going to give 3 times and give up 3 times to learn? No, absolutely not. Drawing someone close, do it on your own time, not your learning time. That's what he would say. Now, maybe other people disagree. Maybe others would say, okay, you have a certain level of knowledge. Give it over to others, even if it comes to the expense of your knowledge. That I would say a little bit dodgy. A little bit dodgy to say such a thing. Right? Maybe people in Kiruv doing outreach would say that. Maybe they would say that. Yeah. Maybe wouldn't say that. I guarantee you wouldn't say it. I can tell you what he told me. And he said, you know, you got the opportunity to sit and learn. You sit and learn. You want it. So I told him, listen, you know, I did this, I did that. Saw a little bit of success, like, you know, I feel this is my call. And he said, okay. You want to do it a couple times a week? I'll give you a couple times a week. No more than that. The rest of the time, sit and learn. Don't get distracted. Right? It's a very, very good way to your inclination. Look, you've had success, this, that. So you take a little bit less learning, do this. Look. You never know where it's going to go, what's going to happen, this, that. Beautiful. But that doesn't come at the expense of your learning. So, you know, I've heard people say it. You know something, teach it. Okay. But not at the expense of your own learning. You don't suppress your own learning for the sake of teaching someone else. If you can do both, beautiful. If you can't, your learning comes first. Now, does that mean you shouldn't donate time to try and teach others? No, you should. Right? Just like you give 10% of money that you make. So you give 10% of your time. 10% or 20%. Let's say you get 10 hours a week to learn. Let's say. So what's 20% of that? Right? 10% is 1. So you have 2 hours a week to learn, to work with others. You want to give 20%? Give 20%. But those other 8 hours, you're learning. You're not giving over the majority of time for that. It's enticing if you're good at it. Could very well be enticing. But this is exactly what, you know, my rabbis warned me against. Not only that, you have something like Ori Zohar, blessed memory, probably the most famous Baal Tshuva, that he was a famous Israeli comedian. And when he became religious, his rabbis basically hit him and said, listen, you don't do nothing, you sit and learn, right? You know, and he sat and he learned, and then, you know, organization came, you know, wanted him to help them, you know, then his rabbi said, okay, right? But they didn't say okay until they felt he acquired enough knowledge. Because it would be much more effective, much more effective. You know, but again, the person may not have all the time, this, that, doesn't matter. It's going to make the person. It's going to make them who they are. You don't, for one thing, you don't want to shortchange. You don't want to shortchange what a person can do. If you do that, you pay the price later. Because then you didn't reach potential. You could have reached potential. So my rabbi said to me, I don't want you to be like one of these Mickey Mouse rabbis out there. You know, you were in rabbinic ordination, you took a few exams, very good, you know, you move on. You know, no. You got an opportunity, you got money, whatever, you sit and learn. You just go through everything. Go through as much as possible. He's right. 100%. Yeah. Not the same person. No question, I wouldn't have been the same person. Now, again, my greatest conceited of times, I would say I still would have had success. Still could have had success. It would have been the same. It would not have been the same. Because someone asked me once, like, this about this and about that. Where'd you learn all this stuff? So when I used to learn full time, so I used to walk 10, 15 minutes. Like a 10, 15-minute walk to where I had to go to learn. Most people knew, how they see me with a Walkman, right? A blessed memory, right? I still have a few of them around here. Not so many tapes anymore because put them all in my, made them MP3s. But, so I listen to so many different speakers, so many different topics. I don't remember everything of it, every last thing, but I went through a lot. I mean, I still listen, going to Jerusalem, listen to different people, so, it's interesting. But that's, where else do you get knowledge from? You listen to other people that, reinforces things you know. Or they'll bring up things maybe you didn't know, right? And that definitely happens. We don't know everything. But, plenty of things we don't know. I was listening to something the other day. I was like, wow, interesting, right? Their perspective on something that, it's interesting. Okay. Yeah. So that's where you get knowledge from, right? But you don't waste time. You get as much knowledge as possible. We say, as King David said, you're only in this world 70 years. If you have strength, 80 years, anything over that's a bonus. So therefore, you're not wasting time because you can't. You don't know how much time you have left. You don't know what's going to be tomorrow. That's what King Solomon says. You know what today's going to bring, you know what tomorrow's going to bring. No idea. Zero idea. So we're not wasting time. Right? But again, a person does not want to be shortchanged. Because you don't want to get upstairs and say, God said you had greater potential. and you shortchange yourself. So what do you mean? Gave it everything I had. Yeah, but you could have done this and done that. You could have learned so much more and you didn't. I remember, when I came back to Israel, I met certain people when I came back, and I was in the States for 3 years, 3.5 years. So I go, like, I thought I was busy. I got involved in real estate and whatever. So, I couldn't find a Kiev job, doing the job in Jewish outreach, very good. So they're like, oh, you must not have had the time to learn. So I said I had 3 hours in the morning, 3.5 hours in the morning. That was my morning schedule. I told people, you want to get a hold of me? You don't get a hold of me till afternoon. Right? I won't answer the phone. Yeah, I won't answer the phone. So I went through different track while I was there. I went through this, I went through that, went through the other thing. So I wasn't sleeping by any stretch. That's what I did. It's what I accomplished. It doesn't matter where you are. Right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. You gotta find time to learn. You gotta have fixed time to learn. And that fixed time has to be like, unless your house is on fire, God forbid. That's the time you learn. Everything else gets pushed out, so to speak. So that, even when you're learning, you're not, as we said before, you're not praising God's creation. That's all we're supposed to be doing. But you gotta find the time. Doesn't matter how much time it is. It could be half an hour, it could be an hour, it could be less, it could be more. But that time is sacred. No matter what's going on, you're dead to the world. You're dead to the world. That's the way it has to be. Because if you don't make it like that, then you won't do it. Famous story with the Ephraim Magolis, blessed memory. Told the story before. He told his wife, he was a businessman. He says, no one comes to see me till 2:00. Till after 2. After, until that time, it's like I'm dead. So 2 people came in. Once they want to make a quick business deal. And his wife said, I can't disturb him. Until after 2. It's like, listen, we don't have that much time. You can make tens of thousands of rubles back in the day, right? 5 minutes. Give us 5 minutes. Said no. So they left. So Rabbi Magorowitz comes out. His wife tells him the story. And he was dancing. He was singing and dancing. And he said, I can't believe God thinks my learning is worth 10,000 rubles. 20,000 rubles could have made. So that's what my learning is worth to him. He didn't get upset. Oh, I missed this big business deal, this, that. Would have made it easier in business. No. His time to learn was his time to learn. That's it. It was like he was dead to the world. And he kept that schedule. That's the only way. That's the only way. But if you don't do that, if you don't live with the schedule, if you don't live with what's it called? A self-accounting. I knew one of my rabbis passed away, so his kids were telling me, his kids were saying that, he had to set time for all these things. He would eat something in the morning, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He had a clock. 10 minutes he'd be learning this. While I was eating. And after that, you're like, whatever, it's that schedule. It's the way we have to live. But that's, you can say, well, can't that schedule be flexible? Not in this. Again, person, sometimes you have no choice. You got to take care of something, whatever. You can't do it. Okay. But in general, you make it like this is the last thing you're ever going to do. And that's the way you have to look at it. If you don't look at it that way, you won't do it. You will not be consistent. Anyone in the process of conversion, that'll be the problem. This has to be the most important thing you'll ever do in your life, and you got to make it like it is. Because if you don't, that won't happen. That's why less than 20% actually finish the process for a lot of different reasons. Right? But you have to make it the most important decision you'll ever do. That's what you have to do. If you don't do that, you won't do it. You won't do it. It'll be impossible. But you gotta be vigilant. It comes to learning, that's it. Everything stops. Everything should stop. Doesn't matter for how long. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, this and that, you're dead to the world. Right? Turn your phone off. If you need your phone, say, you need to watch video, whatever, or listen to a video, fine. But otherwise, no calls. That'd be, an absolute emergency. If you don't, again, might sound a little bit extreme, but if you don't make it like that, you won't do it. You will not do it. There are times, okay, you can't. They're just, things you have to take care of. You can't get around it. You have to, okay. Right? But, in general, it's not going to be an everyday occurrence. Should be a once a month occurrence. Right? You do whatever you can. Those times are sacred. That's why you don't change them. Because if you change them, then it's haphazard. Oh, this day I learned from this time. This day I learned from that time. You should try and be as consistent as possible. Right? It might be, like a person may say it's monotonous. Every day this time for half an hour I learn this. And then at this time I learn this or whatever. Okay, it might sound monotonous. Right? But if you don't keep to it, you won't do it. Then it'll be haphazard. Then it'll be like, I feel like doing it. I don't. Sometimes the person will say, well, I really don't want to. I'm too tired. I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't this. Okay. But, I'm not talking where you're sick. Right? Person could have. But what happened? Priorities out of whack. It is, their evil inclination goes wild. It can happen. 100% it can happen. But you got to fight. Not that should happen. Because at the end of the day, you need to get the knowledge one way or another. You put it off here, put it off there, then, it's like taking 2 steps backwards, and then it's much harder to get back to zero. Right? One of the most important things, I learned at this very young age, one of the most important things, you got to be consistent. Consistency is a good thing. You can't control your life, but consistency is a very good thing. Because if you don't, it's like a diet. You want to stick to a diet, you want to lose weight, this is what you got to do. No cheating, no nothing. This diet works in general. This is what you got to do. No, I don't feel like doing it today. I want to eat something else. You feel the repercussions. You definitely feel that, almost instantaneously. Right? You don't see it by learning per se. Unless the person just, falls off the cliff or something. Because basically, if a person doesn't learn something every day, they'll atrophy. You gotta say 1 day of learning, come on. I learn, an hour a day anyway. What's 1 hour gonna do? It's 1 hour less of spirituality. has an effect. Right? It has an effect. I'm not saying do it every day. I'm not even saying you do it once a week. Well, what does it do? It weakens the person's resolve. That's what it does. It makes the person less want to, to do it. It's like anything else. You push it off, you don't do it. You say, well, if I push it off once, it's not a big deal. The evil inclination doesn't come, remember. The evil inclination does not come and tell a person, I want you to desecrate Shabbos. That's all the evil inclination does. The evil inclination, all it wants to do is put a little bit of hole in your armor. Just a little bit. Even the tiniest of holes. Then what does it do? Eventually it wants to make the hole bigger. But you fight against it. Whatever. Right? The evil inclination got a lot of patience. I'm going to speak about the evil inclination. Got a lot of patience. Very good. So, once the evil inclination has a little bit of a hold, then what happens? Then it goes for more. Then it goes for more. But over time, and it could be over a long period of time. So that'll be a short period of time. The person under stress, under other things. This happens, that happens. Hole gets a little bit bigger. Hole gets a little drop bigger. Right? Once the hole starts to get bigger, 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 then a person's open so wide, evil inclination can just have a field day, so to speak. So the evil inclination will come and, eventually have his way. For the beginning, the person's going to be strong as fire. Very good. So the evil inclination is fine. I don't get you today, I'll get you tomorrow. And the person's still strong. Okay. Evil inclination says, I don't get you tomorrow, I'll get you the next day. Or I'll get you the day after. All the evil inclination needs is a chance to get to you. Once the evil inclination gets to you, person let their guard down a little bit, evil inclination makes a hole. Makes the hole the size of a pin. Okay. Then, you're more vigilant, the evil inclination is fine. I'll try it this way, evil inclination doesn't work. Try that way, evil inclination doesn't work. So a person, it's guarding themselves. So evil inclination is fine. I'll try this way, I'll try that way, I'll try the other way. Evil inclination doesn't sleep. Then something else happens. Evil inclination makes another small opening. Tiny. Could be a tiny opening. Doesn't matter. That's all the evil inclination needs. And once it makes a tiny opening, it's only a matter of time till it makes a huge opening. Right? It's only a matter of time. This will go on for 10 years. Go on for longer. But the evil inclination say, I'm going to get you. Eventually, I'm going to get you. Right? And then the person just falls apart. Right? But again, this is a long process. Could be a short process, depending on what a person's going through. But see, that's why we have to be vigilant. Right? You gotta be vigilant. Vigilant's not a word. You gotta be vigilant. You gotta be vigilant all the time. The person can say, come on, it's fanaticism 101. I need time to chill and this and that. Right? Which is spoken about. But again, the more insular a person is in general, the less evil inclination is going to have an effect. Doesn't mean it won't stop. Right? But once you let certain things in, it's very hard to stop. I just read an article recently about, we were speaking about this many times, about the addiction of smartphones, especially with kids. Yeah, that's right. Adults also. Many, many negative effects. Many negative effects. Once the person is affected and they enjoy it, I'm not saying, or it's not enjoyable, it's enjoyable. What a person watches, what they see, whatever, it's enjoyable, very good. It has so many bad ramifications. Tremendously bad ramifications. Yeah, but causes a lot of damage. And things that cause a lot of damage are not things that are not fun. Right? So what happens? These things are much harder to fight because now it's kind of like, a person eats, I don't know, some Doritos, some potato chips, something where they put chemicals in it to make you just eat more, that your body craves it. So now you get something, like a smartphone. So, it's enjoyable to look at this, that, and the other thing. They watch things, who knows what. It's addictive. It's addictive, no question. Right? Once already a person has tasted it, once they know it's affected them, very hard to fight against. Not here to speak, whether, people should get rid of their smartphones. Probably should, but, everyone will say they need them. Makes life easier. You're right. 100%. Makes life a lot easier in many ways. True. But what's the overriding effect? Is it good or bad? And the answer is most likely it's bad. It's bad in general. But you say it makes life easier. Okay. It can make your life easier, and putting poison in your system at the same time doesn't help you. Right? It's because it makes your life easier. So, certainly in the Orthodox community, it's a tremendous struggle with technology. Right? There's no question. Everyone in the States, mostly everybody, shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people have smartphones, the Orthodox community. A lot of people. Smartphones, texting. It's kind of rare you see people that have regular phones, flip phones, whatever. Stupid phones, as I would call them. Yeah. Here in Israel, whatever, you have a mixture. You have people that do have, don't have, people that don't want to have. Okay. In the States, it's like everybody has. It's almost like, what do you mean you don't have one? Right? People think it's weird. Here, okay, it's a mixture. There are plenty of people who don't have. There it's rare to find. But what's the bottom line? It has an effect. It has a negative effect. It's a much more negative effect than a good effect. If someone tells me I'm not really on anything, all I do is watch videos, or listen to classes, videos for classes, whatever. Okay. That mean no pop-up ever comes that you shouldn't see? Does that mean you never look at other things you shouldn't, just wasting your time because whatever. It's news, it's other things. Right? Anyone that clean? No. Nobody. If you say I can't get on anything else except this, right? It's totally fixed. I can only get one thing. Or whatever. Okay. I don't think most people have that. There'll be filters. Okay, it should be filters. But they, the other things are red. So it has an effect. 100%. But again, it sounds like, come on, like, everything's forbidden? No, not everything's forbidden. You have to know how to use it. And most people don't know how to use it because it's addictive. Extremely addictive. I put up there with cigarettes, no question. Right? It's got an addictive thing to it. And you look at people and other things differently when you're attached to a screen. It's poison, pure poison. In so many ways. In so many ways. So, we're fighting against society. That's what we have to do. So, again, these may sound extreme, in many ways, but the bottom line is this going to affect me in the right way or not? Right? So someone asks, how to close that evil inclination hole? How do you close it? Torah. Mitzvahs. More Torah. More mitzvahs. That's it. That's the only way you can close it. Right? Repentance, strong repentance, and I would say pray. Pray that God helps you close it. That God, keeps you on the straight and narrow path. Right? So how do you get unaffected? I would say it's almost impossible. Because what we see, essentially, we record. The soul records it, so it's always there. Once it's part of you, much harder to fight. Much harder to fight. Yeah. So someone there points out, social media, TV, other things, right? They're the main culprits. Good. Don't disagree. Therefore, people shouldn't really be on social media. Social media, big waste of time, not to mention Lashon Hara fest. Lashon Hara all over the place. And that you can't really repent for. And that you do tremendous damage. Speak Lashon Hara against someone on the internet, say, I apologize, anyone did anything against it, doesn't help. Because it could be affected by 1 million people. or more. How do you repent for that? You can't. No possible way. I see this all the time before Yom Kippur. People say, yeah, if I offended anyone, but I have no idea who they affected. No idea who they affected, who they saw, who saw it, whatever. If they believed it, you're guilty a billion times over. One thing you said something against someone else, okay, right? In front of a group of people, it's one thing. And maybe they'll tell other people, fine, it's not the same. It's not the same. You put up a post, this person speaks Lashon Hara, people do it all the time, right? Someone spoke Lashon Hara against someone else. You have no idea who said it, who saw it. Well, you know who said it was you, right? But you don't know who saw it. How can you repent for that? So it could be. I don't think it's I don't think it helps 100%, but it could be in the Shemona Esrei of Yom Kippur. We say even things I know or I don't know. So if it's the Lashon Hara, that you spoke and you repent for it, and even people you don't know were affected by it, I don't know if you're going to get a free pass on that. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to help. Shouldn't help. In general, it shouldn't help. But these things have, probably the single biggest waste of time today. Besides sports and movies and whatever, social media is probably number one. Probably number one. Yeah, what people see, what they hear, what people post, this a waste of time. 100% a waste of time. But we're affected by it. 100% we're affected by it. So, the younger generation, it's crazy what goes on. Crazy. But that, a tremendous effect. But once it's part of you, it's much harder to fight. Much harder to fight. It's part of your psyche. If anything, it's like person took in, nicotine, anything addictive. Your body craves it. It's very hard to fight against because it's in your system. So this is the same thing. The fact that your soul records it, your soul remembers it, has an effect. Right? Now, a person can fight it with more Torah, and bury it, literally bury it, but doesn't mean it's gone. Doesn't mean it's gone. Total. But the more a person, again, is more insular, the more Torah they learn. A little bit of Torah pushes away a lot of darkness. The only problem over here is that the fact is attached to your soul. So when you attach, you attach to your soul, makes it much harder to fight. I'm not going to say impossible. Much harder though. It's part of your system. What you tell any smoker, to quit. It's not easy to quit. Definitely not easy because the system craves it. The fact that your body now craves it is much harder to get out of. A person needs an alternative, some sort of alternative or negative craving that's going to take it away. That's a harder thing. Much harder thing. There are plenty of people who said, yeah, I tried this, I tried that, I tried the other thing, very good. But it's hard. Definitely hard, no question. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
had a question. These California wildfires. I was just wondering, what do you do if you're in a community down there? What happens if you're in an environment like that?
I don't understand the question. You have to leave. What do you mean? If your
No,
house is on fire, if your house is on fire or going to be on fire, you got to evacuate. What's the question?
what I mean is like, let's say like you had to evacuate your community. Do you have to what happens? Do you just find another place to go to, or do you rebuild the community that was there?
It depends. Person, is going to stay in that community, then yeah. So then, at some point you rebuild. There are people that, plenty of people lost their homes, no question. Right? So you'd have to go somewhere temporarily. you have to find another community to go to temporarily, right? But if you're going to stay in that community, then yeah, so then you rebuild, but you'd have to go somewhere else. At that point, I mean, you don't really have a choice. You got nowhere else to go, right? The person that had kids, maybe stay by your kids for a certain amount of time, but you'd have to find another place to go for sure. If you can't, if you can't stay somewhere else in that same community, you have to go somewhere else, right? That's only I would say a temporary onus, meaning that at some point you're gonna find somewhere else to go. At the beginning maybe you cut a little bit of slack because of it, but at the end of the day, if you had to evacuate, yeah, so you had no choice. That's an onus, right? Something like that. It's, I mean, unbelievable tragedy. No, there's no question about it. But yeah, person had to, person's part of that community, so you have to go somewhere else. And what if you can't temporarily? It's not okay, so you can't. You know, if you can't, you can't. But you do the best. You do the best you can until it's rebuilt. So, even if everything, the dust settles and a person lost, let's say they lost everything, they have to rebuild from scratch. It's going to take months. It's going to take months to build. Even though it's easier, I think, by wood, than building by stone. Especially here. But still, it's going to take you. It's going to take you months, right? Clean up the debris and then rebuild and all that. So you're gonna have to be somewhere else temporarily, right? So you're gonna have to find somewhere else to go, be part of some other community for sure, right? But at the beginning, I would say it's probably an onus, but you gotta, you gotta find a place to go. So, even with all the, even with all the craziness and whatever, wherever you find a place to stay, that's still your focus, right? That is, that's still your focus. Still gotta go somewhere to pray. If you can't, you can't. But that's the goal, to find another community. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Ethics for Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, whichever goods.